You ever rehearse a moment in your head 1,000 times, not because you're expecting it, but because you're terrified it might happen? Yeah, that wasn't me. I never expected it. Not on a Monday. Not while I was in the middle of fixing a jammed printer and eating cold pizza from 2 nights ago. Not when she leaned against the doorframe like some villain in a cheap movie and said, as casually as someone asking for the TV remote, "I think we should get a divorce." I didn't flinch. I didn't even blink. I just reached into the drawer next to me, the one under the printer, crammed with cables and batteries and that one pin that always leaks, and pulled out the divorce papers I had already filled out 2 months ago. She froze. I said nothing, just laid them flat on the desk and slid them toward her like a receipt for a bad decision. Her mouth opened, then shut, then opened again like her brain couldn't catch up to what was happening. I think she expected begging, or tears, or at the very least, some pathetic little why. But I was done asking why. Because the night I knew she was gone, truly gone, wasn't the night she came home, late from work, with perfume on her that wasn't hers. It wasn't the time I found her second phone in the laundry basket. It wasn't even when I overheard her laughing on the patio, whispering to someone named Colby that she wished she'd never gotten married so young. No, the moment I knew was simpler. She stopped saving me leftovers. Stupid, right? But you notice when someone stops thinking about you completely. So I started preparing. Quietly. Carefully. Like a man digging a tunnel behind a poster in his prison cell. She didn't know I'd copied her messages. She didn't know I'd spoken to a lawyer. She didn't know that I'd slowly moved assets she didn't know about into accounts she couldn't touch. She thought I'd be crushed. She thought she was the hammer. Turns out, she was just the first domino. And the thing about dominoes? Once the first one tips, the rest fall fast. When I slid those papers across the desk, the silence in the room stretched so thin it felt like if anyone breathed too hard, the walls might crack. She stared down at the forms, blinking like the letters might rearrange into something more comforting. I think she was waiting for the punchline, waiting for me to say, "I'm kidding. Let's talk about this. Don't leave." But I wasn't joking, and she wasn't staying. She picked them up with trembling fingers, scanning the pages. When she got to the part about the prenup, her face twitched. I saw it. Just for a second. She forgot. Or maybe she thought I forgot. Either way, she didn't expect prepared. "Wait," she finally said, voice sharp. "You already had these?" I nodded. Didn't even look at her. I was deleting spam from my inbox. Not out of rudeness. I just didn't feel like making eye contact with someone who was planning to ghost her husband with the emotional weight of canceling a gym membership. She stepped closer, dropping the papers onto the desk like they were contaminated. "Are you serious right now? You already wanted this?" "Wanted," I repeated, finally meeting her eyes. "No, I planned for it. There's a difference." That hit her harder than I expected. She looked like she'd been slapped with a frozen fish. And I'll admit, there was a flicker of guilt. We'd been through a lot together. Birthdays, family deaths, a house flood, her getting laid off 3 years ago, and me working extra hours to keep us afloat. I remembered all of it. But she didn't. Not when she told someone named Colby that I was predictable and emotionally soft. What she didn't know was that I'd been screenshotting her messages for weeks. The second phone she hid under the bathroom sink behind the cleaning supplies. Not only did I find it, I set up automatic backups to my cloud account. Rookie mistake on her part. Using the same password she gave me back when we were still in love and trusted each other. So yeah, when she said she wanted out, I was ready. But she wasn't ready for what came next. Because when she realized I didn't care, not in the way she hoped I would, she panicked. Not visibly. Not yet. But I saw it in the way she suddenly tried to sit down and asked, "Can we just talk?" Now she wanted to talk? When I tried talking for months, she'd hit me with, "I'm tired," or "Don't start," or "God, Dennis, not everything's about your feelings." But suddenly, when she realized this was real, that she wasn't walking away with the upper hand, the words came pouring out like a faucet she couldn't turn off. "I just feel lost," she said. "Like I need to find myself." "I hope you packed a map," I said. "Because I'm not coming to look for you." I'm not proud of how smug that sounded. But damn, it felt earned. What she didn't know was that I'd already made arrangements to move out of that house, which was in my name, by the way. She'd assumed she could stay there while we figured things out. Maybe she thought she could date Colby on the side and come home to a hot shower and the man who still bought her oat milk. Nope. The locks would be changed by Saturday. And as for her plan B, Colby? Let's just say his wife was about to find out everything. The thing about people like her, people who think they're clever, untouchable, always one step ahead, is that they don't know what to do when you don't play your part in the script they wrote. She had this fantasy, I could tell. She'd say she wanted a divorce. I'd crumble, beg, cry, maybe even offer to change, promise to do more around the house, or get a gym membership, or take her on more vacations. Then she'd reject me dramatically and go run into Colby's arms, full of righteous freedom and Instagrammable empowerment quotes. But I didn't follow the script. I rewrote the whole thing. By Friday, I had already spoken to a locksmith, frozen the joint accounts, which she hadn't checked in months, and moved my valuables out of the house. Not the TV or the furniture. I left all that. I mean the things that mattered to me. The photo of my late father she never bothered to frame. The guitar she said I should sell because I never played it anymore. The hard drives from my home office. I took those and left behind exactly what she deserved. The shell of a home she hollowed out with her lies. That morning, she showed up again. I wasn't expecting her until the weekend. But there she was, standing at the front door in her yoga pants, messy bun, holding a to-go cup like she hadn't just detonated our marriage 3 days earlier. You changed the locks? She asked, fake laughing like it was some adorable misunderstanding. Seriously? I didn't answer right away. Just stood behind the glass with the calmness of a man who'd been invisible in his own home for too long. I finally opened the door, only halfway, and said, "This isn't your address anymore." She blinked, like she was trying to understand a different language. "Dennis, come on. Don't be dramatic." Oh, now I was the dramatic one. "You asked for space," I said. "So take it. All of it." Then I handed her a manila envelope. Inside were 2 things, an updated copy of the divorce papers, this time with my lawyer's edits, and a printed transcript of the last 2 months of her messages to Colby, the married man she'd been finding herself with. "Is this some kind of threat?" she snapped. "No," I said. "It's a warning. I told you I planned, not begged." She tried to push past me. I didn't move. She paused, looked at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. I guess she didn't. I wasn't the guy who let things slide anymore. That night, I drove to a quiet neighborhood on the other side of town and parked 3 houses down from a modern white 2-story. I walked up, rang the doorbell, and when a confused brunette opened the door holding a toddler, I said calmly, "Hi. I think you deserve to know who your husband's been texting." Her face fell. I handed her the flash drive, said, "My name's Dennis. I'm the husband of the woman he's sleeping with." Then I walked away. I didn't need to see the explosion. I just needed to light the fuse. That same night, Alina called me. 7 times. Left voicemails. Crying. Screaming. Begging me not to destroy lives. But she didn't care about those lives when she was sneaking around behind mine, did she? I didn't answer a single one of her calls. I went to sleep with my phone on silent, for the first time in years. And I slept better than I had in months. The next 72 hours were chaos. Not for me, but for her. And I won't lie, I watched it all unfold with a level of detached satisfaction I never knew I was capable of. I wasn't gloating. I wasn't throwing parties. But I was finally breathing air that didn't feel filtered through lies. And she was choking on the smoke of a fire she lit herself. Colby's wife didn't take the flash drive quietly. She went nuclear. And who could blame her? I found out later she'd printed out screenshots from the messages. The ones where Alina called her pathetic for not noticing the affair. The ones where she joked about Colby sneaking out during family movie night. And taped them to every window of their house. Alina must have found out because by Monday morning, she showed up outside my work building, in tears, sunglasses on, like this was some dramatic scene out of a soap opera. "Can we just talk, please?" She sniffled as I stepped outside for my lunch break. "Everything is falling apart." I took one look at her and said, "You asked for a different life. Welcome to it." She followed me down the street like some stray, guilt-ridden ghost, rambling about how Colby's wife had thrown him out, how his phone was cut off, how his boss, who also happened to be his brother-in-law, suspended him, until things cooled down. I didn't even know that part. Chef's kiss, honestly. Then she dropped the real bomb. I might lose my job. Apparently, one of her clients, a woman she tried to sell a property to, was friends with Colby's wife. Word spread fast. And in real estate, reputation is everything. especially when you're a walking scandal wrapped in yoga pants and fake affirmations. Dennis, she said, grabbing my arm. Please. I made a mistake. I didn't think it would spiral like this. That's the line, isn't it? I didn't think. They never do. I pulled my arm back and looked her square in the eyes. You wanted freedom. This is it. Untethered. Consequence included. She started crying harder, people passing us giving awkward side eyes. I didn't care. Let them see. Let the world witness what happens when someone burns down their life and expects you to bring the hose. Later that night, she texted me something that actually made me laugh out loud. She wrote, "Can we try again? I miss the version of you who used to care." I didn't reply, not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I had too much. I wasn't going to waste a single word on someone who reduced me to a background character in my own marriage. Instead, I forwarded the text to my lawyer and asked if we could expedite the process. He said we could, and then something happened I never expected. I got a message request on Facebook from someone I didn't know. The profile picture showed a middle-aged woman, smiling with a dog. The message read, "Dennis, you don't know me, but I'm Colby's mother. I'd really like to talk." That stopped me cold. I didn't reply right away. I stared at the message from Colby's mother for a full 20 minutes. I even clicked on her profile, half expecting it to be a fake account Alina created just to mess with me. But no, it was real. Pictures with her church group, a birthday post for her dog named Muffin, and, yep, multiple family photos that included Colby. Same smug face. Same weak smile I'd seen on his company's website back when I first suspected something was off. My hands were shaking. I'd handled a lot in the past few days with some level of control, but this was new territory. What did his mom want from me? To apologize for raising a backstabbing creep? Or, and this was my biggest fear, to somehow defend him? Against every logical instinct, I responded. We agreed to meet at a little cafe downtown. Public place. Broad daylight. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, but I wore a smartwatch that shared my location. Just in case. When I arrived, she was already there, waving timidly, like she knew how weird this was. She looked nothing like Colby. Her eyes were warmer, sadder. She didn't waste time on small talk. The second I sat down, she said, "I'm so sorry for what my son did. You didn't deserve any of this." I didn't expect that. Not at all. She continued, telling me she found out about the affair the same night her daughter-in-law did. Apparently, Colby's wife had driven straight to her house, crying and furious, dropping the flash drive I'd given her right onto her kitchen table. His mom watched the entire thing. The texts, the photos, even a voicemail Alina left that, in her words, sounded like a teenager bragging about sneaking out of detention. I listened silently, unsure of what to say. Then she leaned in and said, "There's something you should know. Something I think you deserve to hear before the divorce is finalized." My stomach dropped. What? She hesitated. Colby doesn't just have a history of cheating. He has a history of targeting married women. She explained how this wasn't the first time he'd inserted himself into someone else's marriage. 2 years ago, he was caught messaging another married woman from his workplace. Nothing came of it, or so everyone thought, until her marriage fell apart and she ended up moving across the country. "And Alina," she said softly, "she wasn't his first choice. She was just the one who said yes." That sentence felt like someone tossed a brick at my chest. Not because I still had feelings for Alina, but because it confirmed what I'd tried so hard to deny for months. I wasn't special to her. I wasn't loved. I was a placeholder. Convenient. Predictable. Replaceable. Colby's mother then reached into her purse and pulled out a flash drive. "There's more," she said. "I don't know if it'll help, but if you ever go to court, or if she tries to drag your name through the mud, this might protect you." I took it, stunned. "Why are you doing this?" Her eyes welled up. "Because I'm tired of watching my son ruin people. And you're the first one who didn't just let it happen." We sat there in silence for a few minutes, two strangers connected by betrayal they didn't ask for. Then I thanked her, and we left. That night, I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. What I found was chilling. Screenshots, emails, voicemails. Colby had a pattern, a twisted game he played with women in struggling marriages. He liked inserting himself into cracks and pretending he was the solution. Alina wasn't the first, and she definitely wasn't the last. And suddenly, I saw my situation in a whole new light. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a setup, a manipulation. Alina didn't fall in love. She fell for a story, but I wasn't going to let that story end with me as the victim. By the time the weekend hit, I thought the worst was over. I'd dodged the heartbreak. I'd exposed the affair. I'd spoken with Colby's mom and seen the twisted cycle she'd been watching for years. I thought maybe, just maybe, Alina would finally accept that she'd lost, not just me, but her entire fantasy life built on lies. I was wrong, dead wrong, because Sunday afternoon, while I was grabbing groceries and minding my own business, I heard someone yelling my name in the middle of the parking lot. I turned, and there she was. Alina, hair wind-blown and messy, no makeup, holding a crumpled envelope like it was supposed to mean something. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Dennis," she shouted again. "Can we please talk? Just 5 minutes." People turned to stare. I froze. It would have been easy to walk away. I should have. But some stupid part of me still needed to know what the hell she thought she was doing. She walked right up to me, breathing hard like she'd run across town. "I've been calling you. Messaging you. I left notes. You didn't reply." "I know," I said flatly. "That's called a boundary." She didn't laugh. Her face cracked. "I messed up, okay? You made your point. You won. Can we not do this in public?" I shrugged. "You made it public the second you started texting a married man in my own backyard." That hit. Her face went pale. But then, like she'd rehearsed it, she pulled out a folded letter, some handwritten thing she probably thought would melt my heart, and started reading it aloud. Out loud. In the parking lot. In front of at least 20 people. It was this dramatic apology. About how she was searching for something, and how she let the wrong person into her heart. She called me a better man than she deserved, and claimed she was ashamed and hoping for a chance to rebuild. I was about to walk away when I noticed someone filming. Not just one, 3 people. Phones out. Recording her little performance. That's when I realized what was happening. She wasn't just apologizing to me. She was performing for them. For the world. This wasn't about reconciliation. It was about image control. I took a deep breath, reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and opened the folder titled Truth. If she wanted public, I'd give her public. I tapped AirDrop. 2 nearby phones accepted. A few more people had their cameras out now, so I spoke clearly, calmly, and loudly enough to be heard. For anyone curious why my ex-wife is sobbing in a parking lot and pretending to be the victim, check your inbox. That's her voice telling a married man she wishes her loser husband would just disappear. That's her texting him during our anniversary dinner. That's her laughing at how easy it was to lie to me. She went silent, stone still. People were watching. One woman gasped. Someone whispered, "Whoa." Alina's hands started shaking. She dropped the letter and muttered, "You recorded me?" "Nope," I said. "You recorded yourself. I just saved it." Then I walked away. Calm. Silent. But not broken. She didn't follow me. She just stood there, frozen in her own performance, realizing the applause was never coming. Later that night, my phone buzzed with a message from her sister, someone who hadn't spoken to me in months. It read, "You should see what she posted. You officially broke the internet." Curious, I opened Alina's profile. Gone were the yoga poses and beach selfies. In their place, a black square with white text. I lost the best thing that ever happened to me. Too late. I thought the parking lot scene would be the final act, her last desperate swing before reality hit. But turns out, Alina still had a few surprises left. The day after she posted that moody black square on social media, I started getting messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Her ex-coworkers, mutual friends, even her old college roommate. Everyone wanted to talk now, because the dominoes were finally falling, and apparently, I'd kicked off a chain reaction no one saw coming. First came the news that Alina's brokerage dropped her. Not, "We're suspending you" dropped. I mean completely severed ties. I found out through a screenshot someone sent me of the internal memo. It cited unprofessional conduct and damage to reputation as the reasons, which I'll admit, made me laugh out loud for a solid minute. Karma doesn't always come fast, but when it does, it's thorough. Next, her little social media stunt started backfiring. Turns out, when you try to publicly reclaim your ex with crocodile tears, people look closer. People like Colby's wife, who, apparently, had friends in the same social circles as Alina. Those friends started sharing the receipts I'd sent out. People who once fawned over her motivational posts were now tearing her apart in the comments. Her healing journey became a punchline. Her follower count, dropping by the hour. But the wildest part, the part that really made me sit back and wonder how deep this rabbit hole went, came 2 nights later. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. When I finally listened, I just sat there in stunned silence. It was Colby. His voice was low, nervous. He said he didn't know who else to call. He said everything had blown up. His wife kicked him out permanently. His job had restructured him out. And even his own mother wasn't answering his calls anymore. Then came the kicker. Dennis, I think Alina told me a lot of things that weren't true. I don't think I really knew her at all. No kidding, Colby. I didn't call him back. I didn't need to. Some people are better left exactly where they landed, at the bottom of the mess they helped create. But just when I thought that was the last unexpected twist, I got something that genuinely shocked me. An invitation. It came in the mail. Actual envelope, fancy paper, gold trim. I nearly tossed it, thinking it was junk, but then I saw the sender's name at the bottom. Mira Carlson, my old college friend. The one Alina had always been weirdly jealous of. We hadn't spoken in nearly 4 years. Last I heard, Mira had moved to Portland, opened a creative agency, and was dating someone who wore scarves indoors. But the invitation wasn't to a wedding. It was for a reunion. Not just our college year, our dorm floor. A small, private event. Invite only. There was a handwritten note attached. Heard about what happened. You've always deserved better. If you're free, I hope you'll come. I just sat there, holding the card like it was made of glass. Alina had hated Mira. Said she was too intense, too driven, too much competition. I never understood it. Mira was kind to her. Supportive, even. But now, with all the pieces falling into place, I saw it clearly. Alina didn't want competition. She wanted control. And Mira? Mira was the first person who ever saw through that. I didn't decide right away. Part of me still felt hollow. Part of me didn't want to see anyone. But another part, the one that was waking up, slowly but surely whispered, "Go. See what it feels like to be around people who actually value you." I booked the ticket that night. The flight was early, and I almost didn't go. I sat in the terminal, ticket in hand, asking myself why I was flying halfway across the country to a reunion I hadn't even known I needed until a week ago. But deep down, I knew the answer. I wasn't running from Alina anymore. I was walking towards something that had nothing to do with her. When I arrived at the venue, a small lodge tucked in a pine grove outside Portland, I felt nerves I hadn't felt since college. Not fear exactly, more like anticipation. A chance to be someone again who wasn't defined by betrayal. To be Dennis, not Alina's husband, or worse, Alina's ex. The moment I stepped through the door, I was greeted with warmth. People I hadn't seen in years smiled, clapped me on the back, cracked old jokes. And then I saw her, Mira, across the room, holding a coffee and talking animatedly with a group. She looked exactly the same and completely different, in that way time does to people who've grown. Confident, alive. She saw me, smiled, and walked right over like no time had passed. "I'm so glad you came," she said. "You look good. Happier." I laughed. I think I'm still in shock. A month ago I was married. Now I'm here. Her smile didn't fade. "Then you're exactly where you're supposed to be." We talked for hours. About college, about work, about the ridiculous things we used to stress over. But what stood out most was this. She didn't ask about Alina until I brought it up. She didn't make me relive the pain. She gave me space to be something beyond the pain. By the time the sun set, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Calm. Not adrenaline. Not bitterness. Just quiet, settled calm. The kind that comes from knowing you survived the fire, and you're not covered in ash, but stronger for it. And yeah, I won't lie. As the night wound down, Mira took my hand. No expectations. No heavy confessions. Just a moment. A connection. One built on history, not chaos. And I realized something. This was never about revenge. Not really. It wasn't about showing Alina what she lost, or making Colby pay, or going viral for one satisfying confrontation. It was about me. Rebuilding myself from the wreckage she thought would bury me. Because Alina didn't destroy me when she walked away. She freed me. Back home, my lawyer called to confirm the divorce was finalized. Alina didn't contest anything. No attempt to drag it out. No more crying voicemails. Just silence. The kind she always gave me when she didn't want to deal with reality. Fitting. I ended up donating most of her things. Gave her designer clothes to a shelter. Sold her home office furniture. turned her old dressing room into a reading nook with plants and sunlight and peace. A few days later, I received one last envelope. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. I never thought you'd move on first. No signature. Just that. I smiled, folded it in half, and tossed it in the recycling bin. Because I had already moved on, long before she even realized she was left behind.